Welcome back to hour number 2 of Tampa Home Talk. We are glad you are here. We got another great show lined up for you, of course, this hour with our special guest, Ray the Appraiser. Welcome back.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No stranger to Tampa Home Talk, and we love working with you and having you on. We always bring so much value to the community, and I know we've got some exciting stories to share.
Always.
So we'll talk about some things you see in the field. I'll chime in on the real estate side on why that matters. And, of course, Leo and Adam are always here for fun conversation as well. Somebody's getting dragged under the bus somewhere. Someday.
I'm just here for the jokes.
You're here for the jokes and all the fun. So, we pulled this topic because there's a lot of things that you don't know when it comes to appraisal reports. And how could you know, right? How could you possibly know unless you were in that space, unless you've spent some time working on appraisals, or you actually are an appraiser?
Correct.
So can we just open the show today with the story that you told about a recent appraisal that you did in Hunter's Green?
Yes. So I was called out to do a refinance appraisal, and I show up to the house, and obviously I'll keep most of the information confidential.
Yeah, we're talking in general here.
In general.
We know you can't share addresses or any of that, but it was a nice neighborhood.
Nice neighborhood.
New Tampa.
It's a beautiful neighborhood in New Tampa.
Where you would expect to have really nice updates and just a really beautiful home like the stuff you see in a model.
Right. And most of the homes that sold in the area do have that, as I'm sure you're very familiar with it. It's definitely one of the more, I guess we can call it one of the more upscale neighborhoods.
For sure.
In the New Tampa area. Yep. And the house was beautifully maintained. I believe it was, maybe built back in the 1980s, but hadn't had any
80s. Hunter's Green, I think, was a little 90s was when that started.
I thought it was maybe late 80s, early 90s. Point is,
probably early 90s.
Definitely wasn't new construction.
25, 30 years old.
So, yeah.
Okay.
He's trying to set the frame, though, for what we're walking into, or what he walked into when he did the appraisal.
Yep. So I walk into the house, and everything is beautifully maintained. Everything looks great. These folks really do take care of their house. But the only upgrade I think they had, or update, was a new roof. Nothing interior had been done.
So were the kitchen and bathrooms like basic Formica? Like what was there when you walked in?
Yeah, it was Formica. The appliances at the time of construction were likely updated or upgraded appliances at the time.
Almond color.
White, actually.
Okay.
But a hot point stove.
Exactly.
Maybe not that old.
But, what happened, when looking at this house, I had to look at nothing had been done. No updates have been done. No renovations. Nothing that was common in the homes that were selling at the higher price.
Which poses a fun challenge for you because, people see their Zestimate on one of these fun sites that people like to spend time on, and they think it's the holy grail. That's my value.
And that's exactly what happened.
I'll chime in on a seller story here in a minute that tags right into that, but go ahead.
So that was the problem. The person had looked at Zillow, and it's like I always tell people about Zillow. Zillow hasn't been in your house. Zillow hasn't seen the inside of your house. They don't know what's in there.
But how do they get that picture on the outside? They have to have been there, right?
Sure. While we all sleep, the Zillow fairy flies in, takes notes, sees what you have, and creates this estimate.
We did a whole show about how the CEO of Zillow actually sold his home for, it was like 30 or 40% less than his estimate.
See?
It was a location thing. It was on a busy road.
and Zillow's almost sort of, when you see your appraised value with the county, which is your assessed value for taxes, it's always lower.
Right.
Or I shouldn't say always, but
almost always.
Generally, it's lower. The reason is they're doing what's called a mass appraisal, and I can't even tell you how to do a mass appraisal because I don't do that. But it's a different process. It's a different valuation model than an actual appraisal, and that's sort of what Zillow's doing. They're looking at all these sales in the area. They're pulling it from public records. They don't know if there were any concessions involved in those transactions. They don't know what's been done on the interior of the house. So, Zillow can be very high, very low.
Let's talk about that appraisal because you obviously had to make some adjustments on that appraisal report.
Yep.
And so first and foremost, on an appraisal, you never adjust to the subject property, meaning the one that you're actually appraising.
I adjust the comparables.
You adjust the other homes that have sold.
So I had to find some comparables that hadn't been updated, which I did. and
which likely sold for a lower price.
well, the ones that were
not updated,
correct, sold for the lower price, and then some of my comparables were updated because that's primarily what's in that market, and I had to adjust for that condition because that's what I'm reading in the market. You know, one thing people have to understand is when the appraiser comes out, we're not just making this stuff up to work to our opinion. We look at the market, we analyze what the sales are doing, we analyze those differences in the sales and how that impacts their sale prices, and then we're adjusting to create that opinion of value.
What I tell people is it's like playing cards, right? You're looking for a like-kind match.
Yes.
So you're like, if you got a 2 of hearts, you're trying to find another 2 of hearts.
Right, and I can tell you maybe once or twice in my career have I gone in where there was 3 model matches.
Wow.
Right, they're never going to be exact, but you're trying to find the closest match you can.
Exactly.
Now, my question for you, when you're looking for these comps,
Sure.
you know, what type of radius are you typically operating in?
You know, usually what I do is I zoom in on the subjects. You know, if it's a listing, I go to the listing on the MLS, or I just go where that is. I put in my criteria. I may box, so I'll create what's called a market area, which is generally within certain main roadways, or it could be, you know, up to the power lines.
Okay.
But I create a market area and I look in that market area. But then I focus more towards where's the subject. So if there's 5 sales on the subject street, obviously that's going to be my best indicators if they're similar in size, condition, things like that.
What happens if you get a home, say, in Avila, right? For example, right? So there's the homes are a lot more expensive, so there's not as many sales.
It's a really fun appraisal.
As far as current
I've done
sales,
several.
right?
Yep.
So then, you know, is that more how difficult does that get to look for comps when there's not really a lot of comparable stuff in something that's that size, especially if you can only go back 12, 18 months or something.
Right, and Avila is a little more difficult than normal because if you've ever been in there, you know almost every single house is custom.
Oh yeah, every house is custom for the most part.
There's no such thing as an identical match,
of course,
in Avila. So basically, you know, I did a house in there that was 13,000 square feet. It had a movie theater.
How many days did that take?
It took a little while.
Yeah.
You know, that was a big sketch. You know.
Well, there's so many things that you have to know, right? Like all the extra features and benefits about that home, and then you have to go and figure out all the extra features and benefits of your comparable homes.
Exactly, and a lot of times
that's where the tricky part is.
It is, and a lot of times you have to call realtors sometimes and ask them. I had a difficult property I appraised. It was where there was a site-built addition onto a manufactured home. And
that's a horrible appraisal.
No, you know, I've done a couple like that, but I did have a comparable that looked good, and that was going to be my primary comparable, but there wasn't enough information in the MLS for me to kind of make those adjustments and make that consideration. So I called the realtor and we talked about it, and we talked about the property and what it had, and I was able to use it a little more accurately in my report.
So first and foremost, you guys have to follow USPEP guidelines, right? That's who you're regulated by. The appraiser.
At the minimum, we have to follow USPEP, which is the Uniform Standard of Professional Appraisal Practice. Then what happens is we have what's called additional scope of work that's set by the client. Talk
about that. What's additional scope of work? What does that mean? What's an example?
That form. That's not a lot of people think that form is necessary for an appraisal. No, that's a Fannie Mae guideline.
I was going to say, what form are you talking about? Because the person listening has no idea what
I'm sorry. An appraisal form, most single-family appraisals are done on what's called the Fannie Mae 1004 form. And that's the standard appraisal form. It's required by Fannie Mae. Technically, appraisal can be done on this piece of paper, but they're requiring it on that form, so that's an additional scope of work I have.
That's because it has to be saleable on the secondary market through Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, so that another investor or servicer can buy it, which is when you see your mortgage company changes, they've sold your loan. That's what just happened. That form was in your package, it was saleable, and now another investor or servicer has picked it up, the servicing rights to that that loan.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right, this is Tampa Home Talk, and we're getting great feedback from you guys on the Facebook page, and we appreciate you listening and watching and chiming in. We have a lot of information to cover on this topic. Our off-air number is 813-377-2775. If you got one of these unique appraisals and you think, or unique homes, and you need it appraised, call or text us at 813-377-2775. We'll get you hooked up with Ray, the appraiser. He will do an awesome job on that report so you can defend your value. We'll be back right after this break.
Well, good morning. Welcome back. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk. We've learned a lot of stuff. We always have the best conversations when we're off the air. We learned how much that Ray loves Avila, loves Cheval,
Beautiful communities.
beautiful golf communities.
They're a pleasure to drive through.
But what were you talking about? Model homes and appraising or
Model matches.
model match? So what is a model match?
A model match is, and you'll find it in newer communities or what they call tract housing communities. Basically, it's the same size, same upgrade, same condition, same view. Basically mirrors my subject completely.
Well, that's hard to do on a golf course in a really fancy community.
No, but some of these basic
sometimes-
cookie cutter communities, it's easy, right?
Oh,
'Cause
yeah,
you get
definitely.
The whatever model, you just go find the whatever model was just built. That's an easy appraisal.
Right.
Builder X built 200 homes. They're all the same.
Exactly. But then where the difficulty comes in is that's also someone's home, and a lot of times with the big difference between doing commercial appraising and residential appraising is the emotion involved with residential. Mm-hmm. It's the house where you raised your kids and you brought them home for the first time and all this stuff.
Going back to your point on that appraisal you said the guy was like, I don't understand why my appraisal came in this low. He was like insulted.
He was. He was a little angry with me,
But his take and his outlook on it is not wrong, right? His outlook was, if it's not broke, why would I need to fix it? Like, why would I need to replace my countertops when they're perfect, right?
Right, and
it makes sense.
Sure,
but it's going to impact your value.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I'm not telling you have to go out and do this stuff. And you can probably sell your house without doing this stuff.
Here's the thing. Let me put a little bit different perspective on it. You know how much the loan was roughly, ballpark idea?
Mm-mm.
Let's say $300,000.
Sure.
We're going to call it $300,000. Okay. If I were to lend you $300,000, Leo, I want to know that I can sell your home for whatever we estimate that value to be.
Do I have to use the $300,000 on a house?
No, you don't. What was the value? Do you know roughly ballpark?
I'm
gonna spend it.
No,
Ballpark doesn't have to be exact.
Big radio tower.
Guesstimate.
Maybe in the 400s.
Okay, so 400s.
Oh, now I'm getting an extra $100,000. Adam, this
yes, we're going to Vegas.
So no, listen. The appraisal roughly was in the 400s. Let's say the bank's lending $3,000. Okay,
Yeah.
but I'm lending you $3,000. I'm not a bank. I'm going to lend you $300,000 to buy your house, and I think the value's $400,000. I need to make sure I can resell that home for $400,000 if you don't pay me back my $300,000.
So if Adam and I use the money on something else and I can't pay the mortgage, then
I need to be able to resell my home for what I feel it's worth.
No,
what I'm told it's worth.
I completely respect that.
And that's what the appraisal is for. A lot of people, think, well, I can sell the house for this amount of money, and I always say you can sell your house for whatever you want.
No. I'm going to chime in on this one because. Let's rephrase that. You can list your home for any amount of money that you want with an agent that might list your home for that amount of money. At the end of the day, somebody like me is not going to take an overpriced listing because I know the amount of money and time and effort we're going to spend in it. And if I can't get a buyer for that home for that price, I'm not going to waste my time or yours to list your home for that price.
However, I've also had to go out and appraise purchases that were for sale by owners, and there was nothing to support that sale price. To this day, I don't know where it came from.
Well, here's the thing. At the end of the day, right, if we go in and I have this pen in my hand and I say, I think this pen is worth $5. Mm-hmm. Here, I want you to buy this pen for $5.
Okay.
And you're going to say, you're an appraiser. Will you buy that for $5?
No, it's broken.
Yeah, it's broken. I noticed the defect.
I
right
can't
away.
put this in my pocket.
I feel like my pen is worth $5.
Right.
What are you going to tell me?
I'm going to say I'll give you $1.50.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You'll give me $1.50.
You guys got to get a new pen guy. Your prices are way high.
Just saying. Now, Adam, Leo, are you going to buy this pen for $1.50? Or you're going to buy it for $5?
I wouldn't pay more than 47 cents for this pen.
Okay.
No, for these pens, you can get. My pen company would charge me about 20
Don't
cents.
overanalyze it. Give me the pen. But
You got to talk to Leo's pen guy.
So the point is, what I'm saying.
I got a good pen guy.
What I'm saying is, if this pen is worth $5 to me,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't see the value in this being $5, and I can't go sell this to you or a couple of yous for $5, then it's not worth $5.
Well,
and so that's your job as the appraiser to expose what a buyer would pay if they had to put that home on the open market.
it's a great point. However, and to that point, you also have to consider motivation. I have a pen in my car, so I don't need to spend $5. But
Right.
maybe I just won the lotto. I've got to sign that ticket because I'm walking into the lotto office. You want $5? I'll give you 20 for that pen.
That's right. That's right. And that's the market. You're talking about the market right there.
But no, that's not, because that's not a typically motivated buyer. A typically motivated buyer isn't going to pay $20 for that pen, but I want to go in and get my $200 million.
I don't
can't
know.
get it if I don't sell it.
What about the market that we had in 2006?
And what did that lead to?
I'm not justifying it.
Yeah.
I am just saying
Yeah, it was
there was a
crazy.
lot of buyers in the market that weren't real buyers.
No.
So it created craziness and prices in the market that didn't exist.
Yes, exactly. It was.
But with that being said, you still had to appraise the home based on what was selling.
Yep.
So you can't blame the appraisers because the appraisers were doing their job.
Yeah.
They went and found like-kind matches that sold like that home. That's all you did.
Yep. I mean, you know, in any profession, there's people who aren't doing the right thing. You know, for a while, I worked for a very, very large global bank in their repurchase department. And now, if you ever wonder why your underwriter is asking for so much documentation and why they're so picky on my appraisal, it's because if they sell that loan off to a second party, in most cases Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, and that's not prepared to those additional guidelines I mentioned earlier, they make the lender repurchase it.
Yep.
And what I had to do was argue on behalf of the appraisal. And there were some, we would look at them, me and my team, and we said, yeah, this is bad, you know.
What kind of stuff did you see? Which one do you remember? What sticks out?
A common thing was, you know, three good comps within a half mile, but they went a mile and a half out. You know, they went outside the
So they
neighborhood.
ignored data they probably should have
They ignored
used.
more proximate data for the more distant data in order to kind of get to that sale price.
So when you're pulling comparable homes, what are you looking for? How many do you need? Because it used to be you guys had 3. You had 3 on the appraisal unless the appraiser needed to justify some other, you know, there was a reason why they needed more than 1. But now that's not the case. We're seeing more than 3.
You're correct. And I mean, if I have 3 comparables in an appraisal, that's a rare occurrence. I mean, my office, we did probably about 70 appraisals last month, and maybe 2 of them had 3 comparables in them. And the reason I only had that many was I didn't want to use the sales in the area that weren't comparable and then stretch that range out and kind of take away the credibility of my report. A lot of times I have a minimum of 5 sales now in my appraisal report because I want to bracket that subject. I want to show what the higher end's doing, what the lower end's doing, where we're at, and how it's comparing to what's going on in the market.
So let's talk about one that I went into yesterday. It was a fun one to comp out. It was a church built in the, 20s, 30s, something like that. And it was originally downtown. It was relocated and on a very big parcel, almost an acre, and it had an in-law suite. 2-bedroom, 1-bath in-law suite with a garage. Very unique property. And had to go find comps for that.
I hope I'm not the appraiser on that.
So the first thing I did was I found, I tried to find other stuff with in-law suites.
Right.
Which, you know, our MLS has been really fun in moving that kind of stuff around, so it's harder to find for buyers looking for it, right? And for us looking for it.
Yep.
So I went a mile out and I only got 1 comp. And it was okay. And I hadn't seen the house yet, so I didn't know what to expect. But I ended up having to go about 5 miles out.
Yeah,
to get comps. And then the other thing I had to do, because I know you need more than 3, is I had to combine the square footage. So the square footage on the subject house, square footage on the in-law house, and then I went 20% up and down and then still tried to find comparable homes.
See, a lot of times we have to actually take that in-law suite and put it as an additional line item.
Yep.
So it actually comes out of the GLA and it's put as a line item because I have to demonstrate the marketability
of just the main house,
detached in-law suite. And by that, I mean, if you can access it from inside the house, it's a little different because you can make
it's all together. Yeah.
It's all together. You can make that part of the house. I just had one similar last week. But if you have to walk outside the house to get back inside, now it's different. Is the market really willing to pay full price on that GLA when they have to go outside? I mean, if you have teenagers, you probably love it.
I think there's a huge marketability for that, and I think it's going to continue to rise on those properties. And the reason why is there's so many aging parents, right, that they don't want to put their parents in assisted living facilities. Plus, they're so expensive.
I mean, I would look at it and want to rent it out, Airbnb
Exactly, yeah.
style, or
That-
even
And
have
they
a
could. They
tenant.
have.
That
Yeah.
income potential is
Yeah.
great.
I think those are going to grow exponentially in the next several years. You don't think so? You're
No,
disagreeing
the
with me?
cities and counties are cracking down on
I
them
know
for
they
the
are.
reason Adam just mentioned. They want to put your elderly in them. They're
So
not meant
we'll,
to put your Germans
We're
in
going to
them.
talk about that when we come back.
tourists.
We're going to talk about when we come back right after the break because I know the city and the county are cracking down on them, but they get pushback from the community. They're going to have to do overall what the people want. Don't you agree?
Well, why don't we have a politician on the air in a couple of weeks?
We're going to do that for sure.
We'll
Indeed.
ask about that.
This is Tampa Home Talk, our off-air number in case you want to connect with Ray or any of us, 813-377-2775. You can call or text 813-377-2775. We will be back right after this break.
And welcome back to Tampa Home Talk. This is Adam Talley with Talley Insurance, joined by Ray the Appraiser, TM, Katrina Madewell with Keller Williams, and Leo Kane of Barrel Project Engineering. And before we went to the break, we were talking about all these mother-in-law suites and that type of stuff. And one thing that the people need to know that have that, especially if it's detached, is that's not going to be in your normal dwelling coverage. That's going to be in your other structures coverage. So if you have the standard 2% for other structures, I'm sure the $5,000 or $10,000 is definitely not enough to rebuild that. So you need to make sure you look at your policy so that you're properly covered for that extra structure.
So how would you properly cover yourself for that?
I mean, it depends on what the size of it is, but you just increase that other structures coverage. Make sure you have enough.
Yep.
Now, if you're renting it out, you definitely need to make sure that
That changes the dynamics of your
It changes the
insurance
liability
policy.
a little bit, so you need to make sure that you're talking to your agent about
Plus,
that.
it changes the dynamics of your insurance policy, doesn't it? We talked about
yeah,
that.
that's what I just said. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
One of the questions that we got on the break, and we get a lot of stuff on our Facebook live stream. I'm going to go ahead and read that question, Ray, so you can chime in on it. And I'm very familiar with this because we actually have the property listed and we've talked about this, but I'm sure they want to hear from you. She wants to know, how do you account for a home with the same exact square feet as yours, literally same street, sold for way less than theirs, bringing the comps down? It was part of divorce settlement, so it was kind of like motivation to get out.
Yep.
And they originally had it listed for $359, and it actually sold for $317. And they sold the property at flippers. No updated kitchens, bathrooms, nothing like that. The subject property does have updated kitchen, bathroom, all that sort of stuff. And her question is, does the appraiser take that into consideration?
Obviously, if I'm looking at a property and I'm going to look at more than just that sale. And if that sale's significantly below all the other sales in the area, I'm going to be a little curious about that. And that's where I'm going to do a little extra research on it.
This is one of these neighborhoods, and I know you've seen them. It's one of these neighborhoods where it was built, probably started around the same time as Hunter's Green we were talking about. Some are amazing, updated, some not so much. You're going to have a good mix of stuff in there.
Right. And what the thing behind that sale is, it wasn't typically motivated. They just wanted to get rid of it. Like you said, they sold it to flippers. Anything sold to flippers, we see a lot of these companies now that buy your house quick, and let me tell you, I can tell you from experience, they resell it in a couple months
They're
for
putting some lipstick on a pig.
$20,000 more.
Or more.
Nobody does anything for free. So, if this house is being sold to flippers, obviously it was bought most likely below market value.
And I'm going to tell you something. If you are getting offers, right, from these companies that say, we will buy your house, you pick your closing date, I would highly, highly, highly encourage you to call me before you do that. And the reason why is you don't have to put your home on the open market. If you choose not to go through the standard process of getting your home staged, getting it ready, having buyers show your property, vacate, if you just don't want to deal with that, and for it's convenience, right? That's who they are appealing to. Somebody wants the convenience of not dealing with that process, and they will take $20,000 or whatever the number is less. Right. We have a list of cash buyers, okay? So at least do yourself that favor. Don't get one buyer. It's like with anything else, right? If I'm selling the pen and I've got 3 people that want the pen, I'm going to get a lot more demand in that price than if I only have one person that wants the pen, right? So it's the same concept. Let us market your home to our cash investor list before you just sell to this company and leave thousands on the table. You're already going to be giving up enough money. Let us get the highest possible price, and you won't have to go through the traditional process. So our off-air number is 813-377-2775. You can call or text 813-377-2775, and we will connect with you. Again, 813-377-2775. So thank you for chiming in on that, because I know it's a real question that people get. There are some lower comps we're going to have to tend with. That is what it is. And their home is one of the nicer ones, I think, with regards to how it's been updated. The layout's very appealing. It's very desirable to a buyer.
And that's going to help. A lot of times when I walk into the house to do the appraisal, I'm looking at the comps and I'm researching all the data. But also at the end of the day, I'm looking at it going, how does this show compared to the other houses? How much care did they have in their home compared to the one that?
And it's a hard thing to see sometimes from the appraiser's perspective, because you're not spending ample time in the property like we are as agents, like the homeowners are, and like they know their home inside and out. That's why you rely on agents a lot of times to give you more information.
Correct. There's the more information an appraiser can get, the better it is.
I know what you guys asked, so if I have any of those funky scenarios where it was like that, it was a divorce situation, and they just had to get out quick. I'm usually going to put that information in the realtor notes so that you guys can see that when you go back.
And we appreciate
you're looking
that.
For
Thank
comps.
you so much.
I'm really excited about one of the things we have on here, though, and I really want to ask Ray about
We're
it.
rolling to that next. I know where you're going. It's a really hot, important topic. Yep.
Yeah. Do you want me to go ahead?
Yeah,
So
please.
can you talk about the homes with water views?
Not all water's the same.
Exactly.
No, not all water's the same. There's different rights involved. You have littoral rights. You have riparian rights.
You're going to have to break all that down, because the
we're
person
back to
listening is not
science
going to know
hour.
what you're talking about.
Science.
You
We are
have
perking up.
it's and basically that's just the difference between rights to running water, like a river, and rights to standing water.
Okay.
What
a
about
lake.
navigable water?
Navigable water. So a lot of times, and this was an error I saw back in 2005, 2006, maybe a canal home, where they pulled their comps on this side of the bridge and ignored the ones on the other side of the bridge. Well, the difference is your sailboat can't get under that bridge.
Yeah.
So that's going to impact value. Navigable water. Can you boat in it? How big is the lake? Is it a ski lake? And it's funny. I had someone the other day. They said, well, it's not a ski lake, but you can get a boat in there to fish. I said, well, you don't necessarily have to water ski in the lake, but if you can get that boat in there, that's a difference.
Right.
There's all sorts of different types of things that come with
Well, there's 7 category classes, right, for water views, isn't there?
Well, I mean, on the report, we don't have 7 on the report itself.
No, but there's a big difference between a pond and a lake
pond,
and a skiable lake and a river and Gulf access.
Yeah.
Gulf view, Gulf front, and that's another thing is the view and the frontage.
Right.
I've done properties out in Pinellas where you can see the Gulf, but you can't walk onto it from the house. So that's probably more valuable than maybe a house that doesn't have a view, but hey, I want to walk out and feel the sand in the morning.
Well,
Not
do you
probably.
Even get into, do you even get into the depth of the canal as well? So for me as a boater, that would make a huge difference, right?
If you like sailboats, you're going to want probably a minimum depth of 10 feet.
Right.
If you're just out there looking to have your bass boat, well,
it doesn't really matter, right?
Right. Me, I'm a wave runner guy. I need about 6 inches.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm good.
Exactly. Exactly.
But depth actually definitely comes into it. And funny thing was, I did a house once where that was the only stipulation that their tenant had What's the depth of that canal? Because he had a big catamaran. And he said as long as the draft is a depth, over 10 feet, he was happy.
Perfect.
We had this whole conversation
Yeah.
with a CPA once when we were actually selling and showing waterfront property. Is your boat a tax deduction? Now that might have changed, right, with the recent tax laws, but there are times that if you are showing a property that's waterfront, they want to know what kind of boats
Can
fit in that
there, yeah.
water. They want to experience. It's like a buyer would drive up to a home. They want to pull up to the home in a boat.
Well,
Yeah.
and if you're, say like Mira Bay down in Apollo Beach, for example, they have two halves. You have just regular canals that go straight out to the bay, and then you have a lagoon side where your boat has to go through a lift. So I would assume that probably affects things as well.
Yeah, and you'd have to consider, so maybe you're appraising on the lagoon side. Maybe you have another community with the lagoons, but does it have that lift?
Right.
So how's that impacting? So, this is all stuff we have to look at when we're considering value is what's influencing the buyers in this area.
Interesting.
That's awesome because I always want to be someone that has a friend who has a boat.
Yes,
so the
that's
person
the-
who
that's the
owns the
best way
boat.
to do
So
it.
now I know what questions to ask.
Exactly.
For your friends.
Yes. So for my friends, I'm like, well, his lake's only 4 foot deep. He's not going to get me a fancy catamaran.
Yep. It's funny. You always hear that joke. There's the two best days of a boater's life is the day he buys the boat and the day he sells the boat.
Yeah, boat owner. Agree with that. 100% agree with that. So talk about some of the factors that actually affect the value, right? Because there's a lot of things that can affect the value. We were talking a lot about the quality, the construction, some of the additional features and benefits.
A lot of things can impact the value, but you have to keep in mind, not always. Not in every neighborhood. Not
Right.
every market's the same. I've done appraisals where they maybe had a conservation view, they had a water view, and I found non-conservation, non-water views that were at higher prices. And it was indicating that there was just no adjustment for it.
And here's the thing, you can hire 3 different appraisers and get 3 totally different opinions of value.
Of course, because you just said it. It's an opinion of value.
Yep.
It's usually, if they're done correctly, they're usually, I find, within about 10%.
Right. But 10% of what number? It could be a huge difference.
Could be, yes.
So that's something to keep in mind. When you think about some of the factors affecting the value, which one do you think, on this list that we have here, would be the most substantial impact on the value out of consistency, condition and appeal, quality, construction, layout, location, proximity, supply and demand, proximity commercial,
Yep.
supply and demand?
Right at the back, condition and quality. A lot of times they say, well, that house over there, it's sold for X. Now, this person probably didn't know what was inside that house. Now, I'm looking at their house, and it's Formica, white appliances. I go to that house, it's quartz countertops. I can see everything as high end.
I have one right now that has, West Bay and Lennar sold in that neighborhood. And some of the recent comps were Lennar. Ours is a bigger West Bay home. Finishes are real different, quartz versus granite.
Well,
you're not going to get dollar for dollar, but
I was actually going to ask, that was going to be my question when we're talking about quality and condition. Does the builder make a difference on price?
It could. It may
I'm
and it
going to
may
say
not.
it does. A lot of times it does.
You have builder A that is a known
The
cookie
newer
cutter.
the construction, I would say the more it impacts it. Would you agree?
The newer the construction, yes. Generally. Now here's
So if you're looking
again,
at a neighborhood and like this home that I have that is under contract that we were promoting a couple weeks back, it's pending now. The 2 that were West Bay homes, one was 400, one was 445. Our home was priced at 400. There was stuff in the low 3s. That was the other builder, and they were smaller.
It depends. I've done appraisals in South Tampa where the older houses were selling were more valuable than the newer construction that were made to look like an older house.
Yeah.
People want that.
We have a client right now looking for that Spanish design,
that's
so
what
it
they
just
want.
depends on what they want. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about depreciation and some other things that will affect the property valuation that you might not be thinking about. So this is Tampa Home Talk. Our off-air number is 813-377-2775. You can call or text us at 813-377-2775. We'll be back right after this break. Stick around.
good morning. Welcome back to Tampa Home Talk. I'm Leo Kane from Barrel Engineering. We've got Adam from Adam Talley Insurance. We've got Katrina from Tampa Home Talk in Keller Williams. And we have
Ray Hall.
From Ray Hall Appraisals. Which
Ray the Appraiser.
He's Ray the Appraiser.
That's all you need to
Yeah.
know.
He's going to
Ray the
trademark
Appraiser
that.
is in the house.
Gotcha.
We're going to
So
trademark that for him.
You need a T-shirt. I'm going to bring some for you next time.
I'm wearing it.
You need a Ray
So
the
what I
Appraiser
saw
t-shirt.
was the poke-to-poke Mayan ball game. That's what I watched.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
21 years married yesterday.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Hey.
Yeah, to my husband, right, for being married to me for 21 years.
He did it.
He did it. Yay.
Your marriage is old enough to drink, which is convenient because it's
Oh
Cinco
my
de
gosh,
Mayo on
that's
Sunday.
so funny. I didn't even think about that. It's hilarious, though. Oh, gosh. You know what that means? We have kids that are old enough to drink almost. And
Oh, your marriage
one
will be
that isn't.
hungover on Monday?
No, not yet.
Okay.
No, but no. The oldest is 25 and Madeline's 19. But
Let's talk depreciation.
Yeah.
so one of the things that I see
After the marriage talk.
what after the Mayan ball game.
Yes,
We said
Spot
depreciation,
on.
not depression. all right?
let's tie depreciation into marriage counseling.
You know, depreciation, depression, it's all the same.
Depreciation is a
tomato,
scary
right?
term to me. It's going to be valued less.
So here's the deal that we see, and I saw this with a home in West Chase that we had to put a valuation on. It backs right up to a busy road, and you could hear some of the noise from the house, you know, from the outside back patio of the house. It does impact the value.
And again, I have to give the appraiser answer, which that depends on what the market's showing me. So
Right.
in those situations, you back out. So now I have to find a comparable that backs to a busy road or fronts to a busy road and kind of analyze, is there a difference between that sales price and the sales price of the homes that have the more interior
Right.
lot? Many times, yes, there is an adjustment that is required to be on that busy road. I know my neighborhood in New Tampa here, it's very quiet and I love it. So I would definitely...
One of the things kind of tags
Steer
right
away.
on to last hour that we were talking about almost the whole hour is a lot of deferred maintenance and
The water heaters?
depreciation.
The water
other
heaters.
than water heaters.
Last hour was water heaters. This hour is pens.
Pretty
A
much.
lot of, but there's a lot of wear, right? There's a lot of physical depreciation or wear, lack of maintenance. That's going to be something you guys are going to adjust for.
Yeah, and that a lot of times comes into the condition adjustment.
Right.
You know, a lot of times I go into that house that has the new roof, the new water heater, maybe the new tankless water heater, you know, updated cabinetry, updated flooring, the carpet spotless, you know, but then I look in the MLS, and I mean, if you can see the carpet stain in the MLS,
not good.
that's a pretty bad stain.
Got to get a new photographer. That's what you got
I
to
tell
do.
people
Gotcha.
too to watch out for the being over improved for the neighborhood.
Yes.
You don't want to be the biggest, nicest guy on the block.
I always say, and I stole this from a movie, but I always tell people, don't be that guy. You know,
Don't be the biggest, nicest guy on the block.
Exactly. If you want to have that nice, beautiful, upgraded, then go to a neighborhood where people are buying those houses. You know, you don't want to go to a neighborhood where it's, you know, maybe on the end of its economic life cycle. It's
Very nice way to put that.
Yeah.
very.
So-
What about a
politically
neighborhood
correct
that's
guy.
on the up and up of its economic lifestyle?
Well, that's different, but you also don't want to go in there and I'll give you a great example of over improvement. And I did this appraisal years ago. I was called to do an appraisal in the Seminole Heights area of Tampa, which is mostly older bungalows. A lot of those bungalows were built during the cigar manufacturing era. And as I'm driving down the street, I see a giant 3,200 square foot house, I believe it was. And I remember looking at that thinking, I would hate to be that appraiser. There's nothing in this neighborhood. I looked at the mailbox. That's the house I was going to appraise. And I'm like,
Oh.
You got to be kidding me.
yes. You know, they basically bought an old bungalow that was maybe 800 square feet and put a 2,500 square foot addition on it.
McMansions.
Prime example being over improved.
Wait, they kept the original bungalow and just slapped an addition on the back?
I think they had to. Because it was
historic.
Now, question for you. Speaking of like Seminole Heights, something that we come across on the insurance side is a lot of those homes have asbestos siding. Now, does that affect? That should certainly affect, I would think.
Well, you know, if you're doing, you know, houses of the same age, they probably all have asbestos siding.
Fair enough.
Where that also comes into play is what kind of appraisal you're doing when I get to FHA. Now, keep in mind, if a house is built before a certain year and the paint's chipping, I can't pass that for an FHA appraisal because of the possibility of lead paint. If there's asbestos, I have to report that, and that could be an FHA issue. So that's where it comes into play. A lot of houses built in 1925, probably have that asbestos in there.
They used to use asbestos as snow in the movies, like back in Hollywood back in the day. So think about that.
I mean, I owned a house in Clearwater. It was built in 1953, and it had vinyl siding, but under the vinyl siding was asbestos tile.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, we got one coming up like that. I mean, it is what it is for the area, right?
Yeah, and some roofs have asbestos tile roofs.
Yeah. So let's talk about things to give to the appraiser, because this is really handy. It makes your job easier, and you'll be more likely pleased with the results
Benjamin?
if you're prepared to meet the appraiser.
Each appraiser is different. So if there are any appraisers listening, they're probably going to be angry at me for this. But
that's all right. I got hate mail from the agents last hour.
There you
Text
go.
hate to 813-377-2775.
2775.
Oh, you guys.
I actually don't mind and actually like it when the agent comes with their comparables, because it's going to do one of two things. It's either A, going to help me out so I can see where you were looking and maybe it was something that I had missed in my research, or B, I can see why you thought it was worth that, but now I can see, no, that's not really truly comparable.
Oh, no,
So
honey, that's not what it should be.
Yeah, that's,
No.
You can see how much the agent knows what they're doing or not.
I and I'll give you an example. I did a house once, and the agent was they're like, well, I'm going to leave comps because I need this done quickly. And I'm like, well, good for you. So I walk in. She wasn't even there. She gave it to the seller, and I look at the first address, and I see blah, 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 Fairway Drive. And I'm like, well, we're not on a golf course, and I know there's a golf course community about a mile away from here. And, pulled their comps from a golf course community. So I was better prepared in my appraisal because I knew it was going to come, and I was all ready to say it. So if you want to have those sales ready, tell the appraiser where you're coming from. Let us know why.
Yeah. When I prepare to meet you guys, one of the things I do is I always have a copy of the listing with all the information that you're going to need. You guys are going to measure the home as well when you get there. We're going to also put all the comparable information that we pulled to actually price that home.
Yep.
We're going to have a list of upgrades, anything that the homeowner has done.
And that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Please don't come to me after the appraisal's done and say, well,
I had this, this, and this.
I had a new roof put on. And you didn't say. I said, well, I didn't know. It's a metal roof.
Yep. And we also have a list of not only sold homes, but pending and active. And there are times that somebody like me will keep you out of the house until one of those pending sales closes.
I've had them
If I know it's closing higher, I'm not going to let you in until we get that one sold.
Yep.
All right, this is Tampa Home Talk. Thanks for joining us this week. Our off-air number is 813-377-2775. We're glad you're here. Thanks for sticking around a couple hours. 813-377-2775. Remember, love where you live, or we're going to fix it. Have a great weekend, everybody. Don't forget about Riverfest.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week.